I think we should probably get started. Maybe we'll get a few more trickling in, but we got a good group here. So I want to do this because I don't think people are talking about this anymore. And 8 years ago, when I started my other company called Sales Partners, that's now called Op Generation, we built it off email, complete 100%. And we got over $1 million in revenue the first year because we knew how to send an email to the right people and get responses and get immediate meetings. And then we knew sales. So we knew how to convert those to business. And that field has really changed, really changed. And you can't do that anymore. So what we did in that company, which is still doing quite well with calls and emails, so it's totally different than this. It's all outbound sales, hardcore outbound sales, is we spent a lot of time learning about deliverability. And deliverability has to do with lists, and it has to do with messaging and subject lines and sequences and cadences, and understanding the technology underpinnings of how all these systems work. Understanding the ESP, email service providers, the ISPs, the internet service providers, the blocking systems that all these companies have put into place, understanding Microsoft's Exchange, understanding Google's spam filtering, which used to be called Postini, I think. It's unfortunately turned into, from what we learned, rocket science. But I think if you can figure out how to do email right now, and write really well, and use the kind of things that Ed knows how to use as the underpinning of it, I think it can kill it if you build the list right, because people aren't using it. It's like people are using it, but so many people are doing it badly. And so many people are going into the spam box that if you know how to do it right and you show up in the inbox and it's a really compelling story that you're telling, I think the responses are coming back. Whether it's your own house list or it's a cold list. So I want to turn it over to Ed. I know you have some sort of workshop approaches and ideas, to share around this. I guess my first question is, if everyone could sort of, raise your hand or put in the chat or something, or just, maybe go around the room. Are you using email for marketing, or do you want to use email for marketing?
I better put my hand up.
Yeah. Roy. Oh, hey, Roy, how are you? I didn't see you on here. I haven't seen you in a while. Using email. So yeah, so obviously you're here because you want to learn about this. So why don't I turn it over to you, Ed and Lisa? Yeah, we got everybody. I think everybody on this call's using email in some form or another.
Okay, so. All right. So I was talking to Larry last week about this, and I guess there was a last minute scratch for Wednesday's talk. He asked me if I could fill in, and I said yes. I always take advantage of these type of opportunities. Richard Gere made a career of taking acting lead roles when other people had turned them down. So if there's an opportunity to talk, I will. And I love talking about email marketing. When Larry and I were talking, he was saying, well, this is what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to teach people how to do email marketing in today's world, and also deliverability. Just teach them everything about how they could do it on their own and help their clients. And I go, wow, is there anything else? And I started thinking about what came to mind was my best friend in college. He was getting ready to graduate. It was the spring of the year. He'd already taken a job with a bank. So it was his last quarter. And he gives me a call midday and says, hey, man, can you teach me how to do business math? It's my last class. I'm failing it. And if I don't pass this class, I'm going to lose my job. And so he drove up to see me. In a couple hours, I showed him some hacks and things. I said, put this on a piece of paper, or scribble it in a notebook, something that you're allowed to just keep open. And if you just follow this, you'll be okay. So what I decided to do here is, instead of try to show you everything that we do, is give you a baseline framework to work off of. So if you have a foundation that you can work from, and then you can expand that as you grow your knowledge base, get more comfortable with email marketing, then this will work for you. So the first thing that I want to say is that, as Larry was just talking about, a lot of people are executing email badly. And it has when I've done polls on LinkedIn, most of the time when I'm asking if you're doing email, or if you like email, it's always negative, or there's something better coming along. It's a death of email. And a lot of that is because so many people are executing it poorly. And a lot of the email that we get, even subscription email, comes across like spam. It's like the Joe, the insurance salesperson at a party. Everybody avoids Joe because he's going to pitch us on insurance, and he's going to start asking us questions like, what's your name? Are you married? What's your wife's name? Do you have kids? How old are your kids? And he's just sizing us up to see what he can sell us. And it's too much, too soon, too fast, all the questions, and then the pitch is too soon. And that's what a lot of people do with email marketing. So let me show you a framework. Well, first, let me show you something else first. Let's go to this. This is someone that's actually in Revenue Climbers with the rest of us. It's a experimental project that we're working on. And this is my friend Troy. He is doing LinkedIn events right now. And we've been doing it for about not even 8 weeks, 6 weeks, I think. And these are the emails that are going out. This is the thing that I really like about LinkedIn. No one's really thinking about taking people from LinkedIn, whether they're your connections or not even your connections, maybe doing an event or doing something where you're interacting with them, and then putting them into some sort of subscription opt-in list. You can do it in a lot of different ways. We're doing it here with LinkedIn. So during this time so far in this experiment, we've got almost 1,600 people on the list. And the thing that I like about the list that we've built, it's a B2B list. It's relatively small, but people are highly engaged. The engagement rate is at almost 70%, which, if you look at the average engagement rate for subscription email, it's between 20 and 30%. So we're doing more than twice, almost 3 times what the average is. The other thing that we're doing is we're getting pretty high open rates. I mean, the open rates on the low end, 26%. This one's going to be higher. I'm going to refresh this page because this one email I sent out a couple hours before the event today. And this is an interesting one. Now, let me refresh it real quick. Okay, so now we're up to 23%, 1% clicks. And these people that are clicked, so there's 10 people that clicked on his booking link and went to go schedule an appointment with him. So if you think about that, one email going out to a relatively small list will get you, not everybody's going to actually follow through and book the appointment, but probably at least half to 2/3 of them will. That's not bad. Just as a show of hands, would you be happy if you could send out one email to a relatively small list and book? You'll probably, at the end of the day, because we're only 2 hours into it, you'll probably book somewhere between 10 to 12 appointments. Is that something that people would like? Is that a pretty decent result, or like, not so good? Some of you may think, it's okay. Some of you may think, hey, that's pretty great. I look at it this way. It's doing what it's supposed to do. It's a predictable outcome, which is exactly what we want when we do these things. So I think I have to unshare, then go to my next screen. Share again. Okay. Can you all see this kind of flow chart? Okay, excellent. All right. So this is a basic framework for running an email marketing campaign. You want to match your email marketing campaign to your customer's experience. So you start at awareness, they work their way down to interest, then decision, then action, and they buy. What a lot of people do with email is they don't segment their list, especially early on. So the very first thing that you need to do when you have a list is you need to segment it. You want three things. You want their name, you want their email address, and you want to know where they are in their buyer's journey or customer's journey. And that can be a drop-down menu, and you want to word it a little bit differently, but you want to get that information, because what we're going to do is we're going to send the right email to the right person at the right time. What we don't want to do is send an awareness email to someone who's ready to take action. They're ready to buy. They're talking to other people. They're getting ready to make a decision. And we're trying to tell them who we are and what we do and all these wonderful things. They don't care about that. They want the information that's going to help them make a buying decision. So if they come into our funnel, and I'm going to show this funnel again, and I'll go into it a little bit more detail. And we're talking about, we're doing a welcome series, like for example, maybe a week-long market welcome series. We've lost this action taker because they've already bought. Before we even get to the point of trying to sell them, it's too late. On the other hand, if we act like everyone is an action taker and they're at the top of the funnel in their awareness, it's too much, too strong, too fast. It's Joe, the insurance salesperson. It's very uncomfortable, and they'll opt out. The last thing I'll say about this for now is we also have to understand that not everybody's going to buy. About 30% of people are never going to buy from us that go on this list. They don't like our voice. They don't like the way we look. They don't like the cut of our jib. They don't like the name of our business. They just don't like us. Why they got on this list? They like the lead magnet that we offered. They wanted that, and they want to go. 30% of the people are going to be interested, but they're going to buy from somebody else. They're going to be a do-it-yourself person. I want to know enough about this so I can figure it out myself, or I'm going to hire my friend to do it. Another 30% are going to be open to doing business with you. They're not ready yet, but they will be open to do business with you. And you can win those people over. And then the last group is broken up in two parts. It's the action takers, the people that are ready to buy right now. And then the other people that can be persuaded to buy. There's only about 10% of those. But we need to understand where people are and what position, where they are in their decision-making criteria, so that we're sending the right message to them at the right time. All right, so there's three different types of email categories that we send. And this is, I'm sure, very hard to read. I'll have to use my cursor here. We've got marketing emails, and those are broken into outreach emails, whether they're warm emails or cold emails. And then we have opt-in emails, and those could be subscription emails, event or webinar emails. And then we have our transactional emails. And for us doing B2B, we're going to see proposals and invoices will be more transactional. Appointment calendars, we'll see less of the delivery confirmation and double opt-in, maybe double opt-in, but order confirmation and login credentials, those things. And then the last one is one-to-one emails. And the reason why I bring these types of emails, these categories of emails up, is because each category is going to be delivered at a different rate. Marketing emails, especially outbound emails, cold and warm emails, are going to have a lower open rate, and they're also going to have a lower delivery rate because you don't actually know that person that well. Subscription emails are going to have also a lower delivery rate, but higher than a warm or cold email because they have said, I want your information. Transactional emails are always going to have a high open rate and a high delivery rate. They're usually, the ESPs usually use a high sender IP to send those emails so they do get delivered. And then your one-on-one emails, it's kind of a mixed bag. If we're doing B2B, what we end up seeing a lot of is that if you're doing one-to-one emails and you're doing marketing emails, you probably have a problem delivering to Outlook. And so if you're selling to corporate clients, you may have a problem. You could also have a problem with Google Workspace, and both are typically used by businesses. And so you're going to have some issues with deliverability. So I'm going to talk about how you deal with those right now. So there are 4 things that you need to focus on as far as getting your emails delivered. And you may be thinking, well, I push send, the email should get there. Most people that do marketing automation take email deliverability for granted. They build these fantastic looking funnels. I've had clients show me these amazing funnels and they go, my conversion rate's less than 1%. And they're wondering, is it the copy? Is something broken with my funnel? And I'll say, well, let's look to see if your emails are getting delivered. They just assume that they are. And more often than not, they are. On average, if you're using a marketing app, if you're using an ESP, and part of the problem with email marketing is they have different terms for the same thing. But if you're using something like ActiveCampaign, Keep, Infusionsoft, Entreport, Aweber, those are internet service providers. They're sending their emails to your recipient who's using a mailbox provider like Outlook, Gmail, maybe a web app through their hosting service. They all have different rules when they process emails that come in. So you hit send, your email gets sent from your IP, and that sender, and it goes to your recipient's mail server, where it gets sorted. And a lot of things get looked at. The first thing that gets looked at is your domain DNS security settings, your SPF, DKIM, and DMARC settings. If there's something wrong or broken with any one of those, the likelihood that it goes to spam is increased 100% of the time. If those records aren't set up properly, it's going to go into spam and Outlook. And it's kind of a crapshoot with Google Workspace. Sometimes you can get away with DKIM not being properly authenticated. It's easy to see, and I'll tell you how you can tell whether it's authenticated here in a second. But I'm not quite sure whether it is a grace period that they just deliver your emails even though DKIM is not properly set up, or it's just a timing rotation thing. But if it's not set up properly, you're going to have a problem getting your email delivered either now or in the future. And one of the reasons why emails go to spam or just don't show up at all, they just get blocked by the email server, by the mailbox providers, is because there's just so much email that is sent. There's over 300 billion emails sent every single day. 85% of those emails are spam. They get blocked. And spammers use email automation to send their emails. And if we're using email automation, anything, whether it's an email service provider or any type of app that we're using to send an invoice or a proposal, they're able to pick that up, and they question whether or not that's spam or not, even though it's legitimate email. Same thing will occur if you don't have your authentications properly set up. You could be emailing back and forth with someone, no problem. The email, they're getting your email, you're getting their email, they're getting your email, and then all of a sudden, maybe the time is always terrible. You're sending a proposal, or you're just at the end of getting the sale closed, and you send the email and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting, and they didn't reply back. And you're thinking, oh, geez, they just ghosted me, or they wasted my time. Or you're coming up with reasons why they didn't reply. They may not have gotten the email. And it could happen just in the middle of a conversation that's going back and forth. It happens quite frequently, actually. And the problem with that, if you're not confident that your emails are actually getting delivered, then you're likely to do things that'll make you come across as needy. You'll call them, did you get my email? Or you text them, did you get my email? Hey, that's needy. It undermines your authority. You should never do that. You have to make sure you have things set up properly so you're really confident the email is going to get there. So that's one thing. And then I'm going to stop here in a second after we go through this to see if you guys have any questions. The second thing is domain reputation. And domain reputation is easy to check, and I'll give you a couple of resources where you can check your domain reputation, but you want to make sure that's always high. If you have any combination of these things, you're going to have problems getting your emails delivered. So domain reputation is second on the list to make sure you have that taken care of. IP reputation is the sender IP reputation, and that's the IPs are typically shared and they are assigned to you when you open your account. So if you have an Outlook account, you have a set assigned shared IPs that are sending out your emails. Same thing with Google Workspace, same thing with the ESP that you're using. The problem with that is with Google Workspace, many of their sender IPs are rejected by Outlook. So if you have a Google account and you're sending to an Outlook account, you're probably getting some of your emails going to spam. A weird quirk about Outlook is if you buy your domain through Outlook and set up your Outlook account and send an email to another Outlook account, those emails are probably going to spam. There's an internal setting that they have to set up, and you've got to call them and actually talk to a manager who has the authority to make the change. Otherwise, you're going to get frustrated. The best thing that you could do if you're going to, for one-to-one emails, especially B2B, is you buy your domain. You buy your domain through GoDaddy or Namecheap, and then you connect that domain to Outlook. Outlook has the best deliverability of all of the mailbox providers. And for some reason, when you do it that way, those emails will always get into Outlook. They'll also always get into Google accounts. So that's just a trick or a hack that you could do there. IP reputation, the problem with sender IP reputation is you don't have any control over it. It's assigned to you, and the ESPs and the mailbox providers are loath to change them. Even if we can identify it's an IP problem, that's the reason why the emails are going to spam. You can call them, you can beg, you can plead. It's unlikely that they're ever going to assign you new IPs. On our team, they've been working for an ESP in Europe. There's 26 years of experience on the deliverability side. So they kind of know, they know the secret handshake, they know what to say. They usually know more than the people that we're talking to on the other side of the phone. And many times we can convince them to change the IP. But if someone else is coming in that's not knowledgeable, you're probably going to get ghosted. They're going to tell you, go look at a blog post where we talk about it there, or do a web search, or do something that's basically a waste of time. They just want you to go away, and they're not going to fix the problem. It's amazing to me that an ESP would know they have an IP problem, where their sender IP reputation problem, where emails aren't going to a specific mailbox provider like Outlook or Gmail, but they also know that the end user, their customer, has no idea whether or not they know their emails are getting into those mailboxes, because the only people that know are the mailbox provider and the recipient. We don't know, send an email, where that email has landed. So the last thing that you want to do is check your email content. A lot of people think that emails land in spam because we've used spam words, trigger words. I found that that is really the case, especially in business email. As long as you don't have overly salesy things that you're saying in the subject line and you're not repeating it over and over, like free and sale. If you do that enough, then you most likely will end up in the promotional folder, not the spam folder. What will get you in the spam folder is that you're using a link in your email that has a poor domain reputation, or you didn't set up your your security keys properly, or you set up everything, but you missed something. You set up a DMARC and you missed something. I like DMARC as a security key, because if there's anything broken in any of your security keys, DMARC will not deliver your email. And so it tells you like there's something broken, there's something wrong. I need to go and check each one of the services, each one of the marketing apps that I'm using, because one of them is not set up properly. The analogy I like to use is if you're trying to secure your house, SPF is like locking your windows, DKIM is like locking your doors, DMARC is like having a security system that makes sure that if somebody breaches your doors or windows, the alarm goes off, the cops show up, they're taken away without any incident. It's the last level of security to make sure that everything is set up properly and your emails aren't being spoofed, meaning someone is using your email address to send spam out to other people, which will then ruin your domain reputation and cause your emails to end up in spam. Before I get into the email automation part, does anyone have any questions about deliverability?
So Rebecca has a question, and then I have one first, and then we can go around the room here. What you didn't mention lists, and one of the things we learned is that you need to keep your bounce rate below 1% on the list. So we started double scrubbing the lists with 2 different scrubbing services, and they're able to pull out likely bounces, potential bounces. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on list management, which I think is like really, we learned was like really important, or you totally screw yourself if you have stuff bouncing back. And then Rebecca has a question about subject line spam words of how to, pull those words. And I would go further with that question and say, you can get what's called cloud marked, meaning you can get blocks of text and even your signature for your company spam flagged. And then it sees it when you're sending in the future and starts blocking it. So you have to change a lot of that stuff. So anyways, I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, that's true.
Questions.
And yeah, the list hygiene is really important. In fact, what I'll do, I'm going to unshare my screen here. Go to the, oops, what is that? Nope. Go to the Troy experiment. Back here. Now, what we did here is we double scrubbed the list. Because the problem with list validators or email validators is that the data is always different with each one. It doesn't, we have 4 different ones that we use, and the data is always a little bit different with each one. So I wish I could recommend one over another. You don't want to have emails that are good emails kicked out. But you don't want any bad emails in there. And as you can see, our bounce rate is pretty low. This one is 0.5%, this is 0%, 0, 0. This one was close. This was the worst one that we had. And I think this was a problem with the system actually more than anything else. 0.7, 0.7, 0.9, 0.1, 0. So our bounce rate was good across the board, but it was only good because we scrubbed the list. If we didn't scrub the list, we would have been over on each one of these, and it would have caused a problem with us pretty quickly. We certainly would be getting these open rates that we have right now if we were getting lots of bounces. So some of those emails would be blocked, meaning we would know where they showed up. We wouldn't know if they went into spam or the promotional folder. They just wouldn't show up. They'd be completely blocked. And if that happens enough, you run into a problem. Typically, one of the things that you want to do when you are when you get a spam complaint, a lot of people kind of ignore those spam complaints as a one-off, and it rarely is a one-off. It's the canary in a coal mine. If you want to identify which mailbox provider you're getting the spam complaint from, and then you want to backtrack from there, because you probably have, if for example, if someone that has Outlook lets you know that their email went into spam, and you're not going to know unless somebody tells you, you're going to think it was a one-off situation. But more often than not, every single email to every single Outlook subscriber is going into spam. So you have a spam problem that you need to look into. Same thing with Google. It's different if email goes into the promotional inbox. Those could come in and out, and there's some things that you can do to more consistently show up in the primary inbox. But you have to keep in mind that unless you're sending your emails the same time on the same day, like Tuesday and Thursday at 2:00, where people know to expect them at that time, they're most likely not going to look in the promotional folder to find it. And they're definitely not going to look in the spam folder to find it. And if you end up in the spam folder, it could be a bit of a problem with your credibility. Like they think, why are their emails showing up in spam? That's nothing that you did, but it could make you look bad. One other thing that I should say, let's go back. I meant to say this and I forgot. There's one other part of email deliverability that you really should pay attention to, and almost no one talks about it. Almost no one talks about it. But it's just as big a problem as getting emails delivered. And that is speed of delivery. And when you think about speed of delivery, most of the time speed of delivery occurs here, most important, in these transactional emails. I'll give you an example. So you have a lead magnet. Somebody clicks, signs up to receive it. The worst thing that you could do, which a lot of people do, you sign up for the lead magnet, and then all of a sudden the next page is not a thank you page. Go check your email. It's here's what I have to sell you. It's a sales page. It's a link to it's a VSL. It is abrupt. It's too soon. It's not expected. It does work to a certain degree. On the short term, you could get sales from that, and people do. But in the long term, you've gotten a black mark on your credibility. So instead, you want to hold off on that and let them go to their email, check their email, and get what they signed up for. And this is where speed delivery becomes an issue. Somebody then, they sign up, they go to their email, and then they hit refresh, and your email's not there. And then a minute passes, they hit refresh again, still not there. 5 minutes, it's still not there. 10 minutes, it's still not there. And what do you think happens at that point? You've lost them. They're gone. And when it does show up, it's buried in all the rest of the emails for the day. They've forgotten about the lead magnet they signed up for. They're certainly not going to dig into their email account to find it. So one of the things that you really need to ask the ESP is, do they separate their transactional emails, which are going to be put on high quality IPs, from their marketing emails? And those are the emails that you're going to send to sell stuff or your newsletter. You want those transactional emails to arrive in seconds, almost instantly if possible. And the easiest way to tell is if the ESP actually talks about transactional emails and marketing emails. And if they're talking about it, they most likely have separate IPs for those two. If you have the same IPs for those two, then you're going to run into timing of your delivery. And that's going to cost you a subscriber before you even start. If you've lost them on the first email, whatever you spent to get them on your list is wasted. The likelihood that you'll be able to recover that person is greatly reduced.
Ed,
so,
let's I just want to make sure we get these questions, but
more questions. All right,
yeah,
sorry.
So Rebecca had the question about the email subject line.
Subject line, right.
Yeah, and then Karen's got one about just being on the recipient end, and then Rebecca's got another question about, again, it's sort of list management, people who don't open emails. What do you do with them?
Okay, let me do that one first, and I'll work my way back. The common practice that people have is you resend the unopens. So you send out to your list, they didn't open, you resend the email. Good marketing practice, terrible email marketing practice. If they didn't open it the first time, they're probably not going to open it the second time. If you want to verify that, what you can do is manually go look at the history of the people that didn't open. More often than not, their open rates are always really low, where they hardly ever open an email. So you should never resend an email to someone that hasn't opened it. You want to resend an email to someone that has opened it, although that's going to be a little bit difficult soon when the ISO 15 update and all the other privacy updates come out. As far as the subject line is concerned, tell me if I'm getting this part right. You want to, if you're going to use like salesy type words, free, sale, all caps, punctuation marks, like you want to avoid that in the subject line. You even want to avoid using capital first letters of each word in the subject line. Just the first third word capital, the rest of the word just like you'd write a normal sentence. That will probably get you out of trouble as far as ending up in the promotional tab. Within the body of the body copy of your email, there could be other things that trigger it. A lot of times, the signature file will get flagged. And one of the ways to figure that out is you could have a seed list that you're sending emails to. So you get maybe 5 Outlook accounts, 5 Gmail accounts, 5 Yahoo accounts, and you own those. You send emails to those before you send your email out. You see where they land. If they're landing in the promotional tab, or they're being blocked, or they're ending up in spam, one of the easiest, fastest ways to determine whether you if it's a content problem is to remove the signature file. A lot of times that's all you need to do, and then just put text in there. Don't put a link, your phone number, your website.com, but don't make it a hot link. Don't even make your email a hot link, and see if that fixes the problem. If that doesn't, then you have one of the other problems. It's either a sender IP problem, it's a domain reputation problem, or you have an issue with your security keys. Did I answer that question? No, maybe? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Should I check? I'm not good at multitasking.
She said that's helpful. Thanks.
Okay.
And then Karen, you had a question that sounds like on a recipient end, you're having trouble receiving emails. Is that it?
Yeah, I have two issues. One is in my, I have Office 365 for business, and I have one client that I just can't get it. Her emails keep going to my junk. I've tried everything in Office 365. I've tried, and then on my own personal Gmail account, I have one of these. It's called unroll.me to roll up my emails, and I added it to my safe senders, whatever, and it always goes into my junk box. The one's Gmail, one's Office 365. Okay.
Yeah, I would say with that particular client, it's probably a problem on their end, not yours, if you're getting all your emails. On the other end, it could be an MX record problem where you don't have either enough MX records or you need to replace them.
What's an MX record?
An MX record is going to check your incoming mail and sort it, and so what ends up happening is you usually have several MX records, and then an email comes in, and the email comes to the first MX record, and it checks. So okay, that one's full. Let's go to the next one, and then the next one, and the next one, and it runs out of records to send the email to. It just fails. So it's possible that it's that. It's unlikely that that's a problem. It's more likely it's a problem with your client, especially if they're using Outlook also.
Okay,
or
then
Gmail.
Yeah. So, and then, but on the filter side for Gmail, like I'm not getting ones that I want, and then other ones are going to junk that I've, all the like sex ones, like they still go into my junk box. I've tried taking out filter words. I mean, they figured out how to get through everything, but.
So one of the things you can do is there's a label at the top of the box for every email that comes in. You click that little label at the top and it'll show you where the email is landing. If it's going in the promotional inbox or if it's going to spam, you may have to manually move it. So you uncheck promotion, you check update. and then apply, and then it'll move it to your primary inbox. And you may have to do that several times before Google says, okay, this is an email that Karen wants, and we're going to put it in the primary inbox. But even if you do that, occasionally it's going to go into some place that you don't want it to go. The other thing that you could do is, if it's the same email address, create a label for that. And then when it does come in, there'll be a label attached. You can check labels so that it'll check wherever it was placed in your inbox, it'll find it. And that, in combination with manually moving it, like unchecking promotion, checking update, it'll end up showing up in your primary inbox. And it just may take some time.
Is there a difference if, like, I have Apple Mail, I view all my email accounts through Apple Mail? Could that add another layer of
Yes, it
whatever
does.
blocking?
Yeah, it can. And then Apple is coming up with an ISO 15 update where it's more on the side, the marketer side. It's going to be a problem with probably deliverability, but certainly automation and understanding how people are responding to your emails, which I'm going to talk about that here in a second. But almost half of email users use the Apple client. So it's something that ESPs, and we have a couple of different solutions on the marketing side to deal with it. But it's something we're going to have to work through. And that update's coming out sometime this fall, any time after September and before the end of the year.
Thank you.
Sure. So this is where, and I talked a little bit about this section, but I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth, is that when you have an email list, you want to make sure you segment, and the easiest way to do it is to segment them based on the customer journey, buyer's journey, whatever you want to call it, and awareness, interest, decision, action. The nice thing about sending out emails to your list, you're going to send an email that's an awareness email to awareness people. And you'll send them a link, ideally. A link in it will take them to a page that'll focus on awareness. Then if somebody's at an interest level, you'll talk about interest. And I'll give an example. I walk every day I do a 5-mile walk every morning. And I have to replace my shoes about every 3 to 6 months. I'm 2 months out from buying new shoes. And so now I'm interested in these max cushion running shoes. So I'm doing research on those things. I'm in the interest phase. Anything that's talking about max cushion shoes, I see on the internet, I see on YouTube, I see the ads. I notice them all. I'm interested. So in the interest phase, you want to have an email that talks about where they are, interest. They want a lot of input. They want a lot of information. And you want to take them to a page on your website that's going to help them to satisfy that need of all this interest that they have. On the decision side, which and everybody they go through this a little bit differently. I'm a researcher. Some people are impulse buyers, but we kind of all follow the same process, some just faster than others. On the decision side, now I'm looking at comparisons of different shoes. I'm looking at this shoe versus that shoe. And I'm really getting close now to making a decision. And after I've done that, if you have an email that goes out, links to a comparison type page, you're satisfying the decision part, and you're controlling everything. Like, they don't have to go out and do a lot of research because you're providing all that information for them. You've got this home field advantage that you're working from. Then the last step is the action phase, and this is where you're going to increase the intensity. Like, before, maybe you're emailing once or twice a week. Now you may be mailing like every day. It's a short burst, and you're providing your best sales argument, maybe a VSL, and that's where you're sending them to. There's testimonials on that page. In the awareness stage, you may have testimonials, but they're going to be different types. They're going to be talking about why you're a great person to work with, not necessarily the results that you produce, but that you want to get them comfortable with you first and not try to sell them at that point. They're not ready for it. But in the action phase, They want to know that they're going to be making a right decision. They're not going to be making a mistake. They're not the first one that's bought from you. Other people have had the same problem. They solved the problem. That email that goes out should take you to an action page. The other side of that is if they're starting off at awareness, you don't know how fast they're going to go from awareness to action. Could be a couple hours, could be a few weeks. But if you take them to an action awareness page, there should be a link to take them to the next step, which would be the next page in this sequence, which would be the interest page. They consume that. Maybe then they click, there should be a link to the decision page. They go to that page. Every time they change, every time they click a link, every action that they take gets logged with in your email automation. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to put all these people in one of four categories, either the category of awareness, the category of interest, category of decision, the category of action. Each time they take an action, open an email, click a link, go to your website, look at a page on your website. We're going to put code on all your pages. They're going to get tagged for having done all of that. So you're going to have tags, a record of every action that they took, both from your emails and on your website. The advantage that we have as service providers, B2B service providers, is we don't need a huge list. We can look at where someone is. We can do a search. Show me everyone that's in the action stage right now, and they'll be in the action category. There'll be a list there. There'll be a list of all the actions they've taken. You can now you know that they're ready to buy or they're persuadable to buy. You can now send a warm email if you wanted to that person. Based on all the actions they've taken, you go to their profile, you look at what they're doing there, you can craft a very compelling warm email that will move them to a meeting. Very high appointment rate if you do that. Let's go to the next slide real quick, because I know I'm running out of time here. There we go. And these are the building blocks of creating that automation. You have triggers, actions, delays, decisions, and goals. So a trigger happens when someone is entering a funnel, or they've clicked the link, they've taken an action. There's a trigger that occurs. And from that trigger, we either add a tag, like they've done this thing, and a tag is a yes, no, action that they've taken. So you want to have the action of the verb. They downloaded the action and say a lead magnet. So that would be the tag, downloaded lead magnet. It could be a specific lead magnet that they downloaded. So there's a tag. And then there's the action that happens, which is, they've added the tag. Then you have delays, and you don't want all these emails to go, they take an action, and then in some cases you want that the next email in the sequence to be immediately sent out to them. We have one client that has open rates ranging from 30 to 70%, and they have a list of over 700,000. A lot of people think that the bigger your list, the lower your open rate. But if you segment properly and you get the timing of the follow-up emails out when they trigger an action, you can get really, really high open rates for a large list. There's a decision that has to be made, and that's they click the link. We decide what kind of tag that we're going to add to them or what category they're going to go into. And then there's goals. Let's say someone has started off at awareness and they've clicked the links from on the pages that have taken them down from interest to decision to action. What the goal does is it says we're going to overrule whatever category they're in, and we're going to move them down to this category. So as they go down this funnel, that we're going to be adding and we're going to be removing and adding tags, we're going to be removing a category and adding a new category. But if they go through it quickly before there's any automation sent out, that's why you want to have a little bit of a delay. It won't send out all those other emails, which could create some confusion if someone's at awareness and they've already gone down the funnel and now they're at action. You don't want to send them an interest email. You don't want to send them a decision email. You want to send an action email. And that's an area where a lot of internet marketers, email marketers, get it wrong. I'll give you a great example. If you've ever bought something and then you keep seeing the ads for that thing. Like, why am I bought it. I don't need to see the ads anymore. And then they add insult to injury, and that now you could get it at a discount. Well, you mean I bought it and now I paid too much on top of it? What's the likelihood you're going to do business with them again? But it's just these little details of being able to add and remove tags as they go through the funnel and they take actions, which is very important in email marketing. You also want to connect everything to for different integrations. This is where like email automation, marketing automation all comes together. And when you can do this, then you can really get the right message for the right person at the right time. So you want to connect to your payment processor. If you have a membership platform, you want to connect it to that. Your advertising platform, like Facebook is usually the best one. Here's a situation where if someone didn't open an email, triggering it so now it generates a Facebook ad that they see is a good way to handle unopened emails. In fact, the open rate tends to be much higher. Forms. Sometimes ESPs have a drop-down menu form that you can use when you create a form with them. Sometimes they don't. I think it's, what is it? Typeform is a good form that integrates with most ESPs. And then if you don't have a natural integration with any of these any of these other services, you can always use Zapier. And the last thing, and then we have time, maybe a couple minutes for questions. One way to do this, like right away, like if you're not comfortable with any of the stuff that I said, the easiest thing that you can do is you log into your ESP. ActiveCampaign, almost all of them have templated campaigns that you can use. You just grab a templated campaign, put it in, see how it functions, start playing around with it, modifying it, and then keep in mind that process, that foundational process that I had in place that I talked about. As far as email deliverability resources, Google Postmaster Tools is great for determining and monitoring your domain reputation. Sender score also is good for determining whatever your domain reputation is. And then Demarkian for setting up your security keys, it'll automatically do that for you. So you just go and you put in the information that they ask and it'll create the key for you. From there, you just take it over and you put it into your DNS. Marketing research tools, drip emails will help you to create your email campaigns because there's a lot of copy, a lot of emails that you have to create. Similar mail is good for getting ideas to see what other larger companies are doing and what's working for them. Glimpse also, same thing. And the last one, I can't see it on my screen here. Which one is it? Oh, okay. I can't see it. I can't remember what I put in there. But if you just look at those, the ones that I shared with you there, you shouldn't have a problem. At least having enough ideas to get up and running.
We should, yeah, we should give. So I guess a couple of things. One is there's a feeling of overwhelm. I think for everybody, and it's it's because it's overwhelming. There's no way to not make it overwhelming.
Mandate was an hour, Larry.
So I guess, yeah. So I guess it kind of goes back to, if you're serious about this, reach out to Ed. He's really generous and he's got some programs that are suited for, solopreneurs. So I've talked to him about some stuff like that. Troy is working with him, who you guys probably know, Troy Hippolito. The other thing is just, does anybody have any kind of questions or last minute thoughts? I know Karen, you'd mentioned something about, I guess, systems, Zapier versus integrate or a fully integrated system. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I just wanted, I was just curious on your opinion of using, and I guess not just from deliverability, but if that's your forte, using, like putting, band-aiding things together using Zapier versus Kajabi or one of these all-in-one platforms, which I dislike, but many people use for, they think, ease of use.
Yeah, I have strong opinions on the all-in-one platforms. They're terrible. As far as deliverability is concerned, the last thing on their mind is the email getting delivered, and it shows. They almost always end up in spam. We work with clients that have those all the time. What we end up having to do is set up an SMTP server for them, so it's separate, but you really can't tell that it's running any different. But now you have an added level of expense. It's better if you find a good ESP and you look to see what native integrations they have and limit the amount of Zapier integrations that you have to do.
Interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, sounds. Well, Stephen Pope, he's like the Zapier master. So, and Dave on our team's a Zapier master too. It's pretty complicated to make that thing work. So thanks, Ed, this was great. I know it's a lot to take in. It's really kind of a master class into, figuring this out. So Ed, I really appreciate you doing this. And the recording, of course, will be in the platform in the Wednesday area. If anybody wants to look back at it, and, make sure to reach out to Ed if you need any support with this.
I will save the chat.
So great.
If anybody wants me to, if they want to reach out to me, I should just put in my email real quick here. Here we go. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer your questions. And I would highly recommend adding email marketing to your mix. It's extremely profitable, extremely profitable.
Yeah. It is. And in some ways, I think it's easier today. It's harder to do, but it's easier to get results if you do it well.
I agree. Well, look, Troy, if I were to update his what we're doing, the email I sent earlier today, I'm sure he's getting closer to 15 at least 15 clicks to his booking link.
Right. Perfect. All right. Thanks again, Ed.
All right. Thanks so much.
Bye.